Hello, everybody. First, I would like to thank Yanis for organizing this conference. I am grateful for the opportunity to present my research, which is about the typographic representation of monetary inscriptions. In the beginning, I would like to talk a little bit about the research context before going into the details. The PIM research project was initiated by Florence Codin, curator in charge of the Merovingian coins at the National Library of France, aiming to produce a tool suitable for transcribing the information contained on monetary inscriptions beyond the semantic content. When studying a coin, the textual information it carries provides many clues regarding its origin. On the other hand, the graphic features of the inscription provide valuable information. Previously, there was no digital font that was able to fully render these specifications. The BNF houses one of the largest collections of coins. Most of the BNF collection of coins have been digitalized and are available publicly on the Gallica website. Thanks to this digital resource, the experts from the Department of Coins and Medals were able to establish an inventory with the help of a software called Numipal. Numipal enables the scholars to study the coins very closely and, most importantly, annotate the inscriptions. Once the annotation has been carried out, all the annotated allographs are recorded for each coin. For the same allograph, all the identified forms are inventoried with the reference number in the online software. Then, this database makes it possible to find, for each single allograph, all the forms which have been assigned to it. In 2013, the Department of Coins, Medals and Antiques at the Bibliothèque Nationale de France began a partnership with the Atelier National de Recherche Typographique in order to develop a digital typeface that brings together all identified stylistic variants in a consistent manner. This partnership began with Elvir Volk-Leonovich, a student at ANRT. The goal at this point was to develop open source Unicode fonts for transcription of the Merovingian monetary inscriptions, in print and digital. While the font consisted of image files inserted in the editorial project, a significant evolution for research and in digital humanities will be allowed by the use of Unicode fonts, especially in digital publishing projects, such as online catalogs. Based on the classification of the letters found on these coins, which was conducted by a team of researchers, it was possible to deduce an accurate and relevant interpretation of the various letter forms. The Merovingian typeface was designed without details such as serif to emphasize the multiple letter structures. It was designed with a fairly heavy weight and low contrast to distinguish it from other text typefaces that might be used to typeset the text around it. In 2019, the PIM project was extended to cover other collections of coins from Italy, Greece, Spain, North Africa, and the Middle East. And I have been responsible for designing typefaces for Phoenician, Cypriot, Archaïc Greek, Lydian, Etruscan, Umbrian, Oscan, Paleo-Hispanic, Lycian, Paleo-Hebrew, Karachi, and Nabatean writing systems. In the beginning, it was expected that the typefaces will at the end consist of 1,066 glyphs for each allograph. However, so far, we have 2,120 glyphs, while some scripts, like the Cypriot and the Paleo-Hispanic, have not yet finished. Working on such corpus is a great way to study and compare the evolution of the alphabet and exchanges between the societies. However, if you have had the chance to listen to the previous presentation by Svevalti Di Rodiano, you will note that the relationship between the early writing systems is rather complex and the influences are not as linear. So to begin with, I propose to take a look at the Phoenician coinage. How to integrate the legend in the publication has always been a challenge for the numismatic researcher, especially for the Phoenician, which has been the subject of many mutations. For instance, in 1867, the Académie des Inscriptions et Belles-Lettres, through the initiative of Ernest Renan, requested the Imprimerie Nationale to engrave transcription characters to publish a study presenting a corpus of all non-Semitic inscriptions, the Corpus Inscriptionum Semiticarum. I should point out that the coins from the Phoenician cities with exploitable legend, all of which are from the BNF collection, are dated from the 5th to the 1st century BC. This first example of coin that you can see in this slide has been struck in the mint workshop of Byblos between 350 and 333 BC. The legends of the Phoenician cities have neat and easily identifiable graphs for the high period, either under Persian domination or a little less in the Hellenistic period. It is deduced that authority responsible for minting had paid attention to their productions. The care provided is also for these cities a way to demonstrate their political power and mark their willingness to increase opportunities for exchanges. With the arrival of bronze coins under the Hellenistic domination, Ptolemaic dynasty then Seleucid, the graphy deteriorates gradually. Firstly, because the bronze coins became dominant and more difficult to mint. The domination of the Greeks from 331 BC from Alexander the Great enabled the language to become widely used by the Helots, and from the 2nd century, coins were gradually minted under the influence of the dominant culture, Hellenistic. This is a bronze coin minted under Antiochus IV, a Seleucid ruler at the Hellenistic period, around 175 to 164 BC. who issued coins in his territories, a rather incredible amount of bronze coins. He alone produced as much as his predecessors. When it comes to Seleucid coins, much of the monetary finds in excavation are from Antiochus IV's period. We find on the coin the presence of Greek and Phoenician characters at the allograph number 7, Samek number 9, Dalet 3, Nun 9, and Mem number 19, which showed the evolution of culture and the place that takes the Greek language during this period. This gradually became Hellenized. Also, the coexistence of Greek and Phoenician signified a mixed and multilingual society, even if the majority of the population were illiterate. So for the typeface, it was better to first create a standard of the ontograph, which was more consensual and easy to identify. And the next step was to design all the allograph. As you can see, the variant of form in the Phoenician is consequent. In fact, the role of the researcher at the BNF, in this case Dr. gʁafematik, was very significant in the identification of the letters. And without their contributions, the process of digitization would have been almost impossible. Because of the heterogeneous qualities, my aim was to find a suitable representation based on the inscriptions, my references, and more importantly, the analysis and the descriptions provided by researchers at the BNF. The scholars are the primary users of the typeface. Therefore, they need an accurate tool that can help them in their studies. For instance, this allograph Aleph is only present on the coins from Carthage with the elephant. This information has been clarified thanks to the PIM project that allowed the scholars to observe that some allographs are very specific to a certain mint workshop, and they can more easily observe the evolution of the forms and their localization. So the later variation gives us precise historical and geographical information which helps to identify an engraving workshop and its linguistic environment. The Punic language, which is used mostly in North Africa, is written with a branch of Phoenician that we call Phoenician Punic. In our corpus, 88 allographs are common with the Phoenician in a total of 241 allographs. For instance, this is a Punic silver coin from 300 to 289 BC, which has been studied by Jenkins in Coins of Punic, Sicily. We can find the reproduction of the inscription in two types. One on the right is with a reproduction of the coin, and the second is a transcription by his hand in a list with a reference number. Now, what we can do thanks to the new technology is having an image of the coin with high quality, below a reference number and the transcription with a digital font. We can also integrate the transcription in the text with the transliteration and in this way make it more readable. And it is possible to make a list of the inscriptions and compare them easily. Now, let's take a look at the Archaïc Greek. Fortunately, the Archaïc Greek has been well studied and I didn't experience a shortage of sources. I was able to design two standards from different periods. This slide shows the most recent, which is based on the 4th century BC, and the closest to the actual Greek capitals. And in this character set, the characteristics of the letters are from the 6th century BC. And finally, I was able to design all the alternates in accordance to the local script of Archaïc Greece by Lillian Hamilton Jeffrey. Here you can see the same Greek coins from different periods and mint workshops, which depicts Heracles wearing a lion skin. On the reverse side, there is an image of Zeus on a throne, and on his right, you can see the inscription Alexander for Alexander the Great. In this slide, you can see the difference in the letter forms according to the period and the engravers, who sometimes were literate. Here is a silver coin that is dated between 175 and 64 BC. This coin has very neat Greek characters around the type in beautiful alignment. And the text suggests that it is the coin of the king Antiochus who brings victory. Now I would like to talk about what is called Old Italic. The Old Italic is a convention adopted for Unicode. But basically, it's one alphabet unified for representing different writing systems. The Etruscan, Neo-Etruscan, Oscan, Umbrian, for the one which interests us as part of the PIM project. So I designed the standard common for all these alphabets in order to facilitate the utilization of the typeface. But the researcher will also have access to different font files, well distinguished for each writing system. One of the characteristics of working on monetary inscriptions is that sometimes we can't reconstitute all the alphabet. So we have to do more research in order to find the right ontograph to complete the typeface and make it usable. Now I am going to talk about the Hebrew and the Paleo-Hebrew. The Paleo-Hebrew, also known as Proto-Hebrew, was the script that was used in the historic kingdom of Israel and Judea. If we compare the letter form of the Hebrew, the Paleo-Hebrew, and its variant with the Phoenician, we can deduce the ductus and the traces order. For example, with the letter bet, we can notice the recurrence of a closed stroke on top, which is open in Hebrew, and a vertical stroke going down to finish almost horizontal. For the letter tzadi, we can see a stroke that comes from the top to join in the middle of a long vertical stroke by a movement of up and down. This kind of analysis is essential in this work. The idea is not to make a revival with the exact shape, but to show the basic strokes which are relevant. Now we can see an example of a coin from Jerusalem dated around AD 67-68. Here you can read about the chalice that it is the shekel of Israel in Paleo-Hebrew characters. And on the reverse in a border of dots is written Holy Jerusalem, around a branch carrying 3 pomegranates. I took the initiative to design a modern Hebrew to translate the Paleo-Hebrew inscriptions that allows the researcher to transcribe in the right language and the right sounds without using the transliteration. The last project that I am going to talk about is one of my favorites, which is the Nabatean. As you may know, some scholars have suggested that Syriac and Arabic scripts are driven from Nabatean script. As the script developed, a range of ligatures and final forms were introduced. In our case, the letters found on the coins were isolated. But if scholars required to introduce joint letters for epigraphic transcriptions, it is possible to extend the typeface with a more cursive direction. The typeface has been designed in comparison with the Phoenician, the Syriac, and the Arabic letters. These slides show how the Nabatean ontograph are represented in this font. And this is a complete typeface with all the allograph found on the coins. I have included a few variants from the sources that were attested to make it usable for other studies. Now I'm going to show you the last coin, which is a bronze coin from Nabatean. If we look at the inscription, we can read Aretas for Aretas IV, king of Nabatean, and Shakilat, who was the second wife and co-ruler of Aretas IV. We can see the portrait on the other side. It is possible to have at least 4 different degrees of transcription. The first is an imitative or diplomatic transcription by using the variant of the typeface. The second is what we can call a semantic transcription by using the ontograph. That is a more conventional form of the script. Under the scholar, this could be written in the correct direction from right to left, but sometimes we can see the transcription from left to right. Then we have the transliteration with the use of Roman characters. And at the end, there is the translation. To conclude, the scholars will have access to this font designed with a more conventional letter forms, that is the ontograph. You can see below the karoshti, which I didn't talk about because it's not totally finished yet. For this script, I received the help of Thomas Marchand, who is actively involved in the project. And of course, this is the extended typeface family with all the variants of each allograph. The project is continuing with the development of a prototype of an online text editor by Sylvain Julet. This composer will make it possible to take advantage of all the glyphs created within the PIM family. This project, conducted by the Type Design, was a unique way to study these early writing systems and study how by the great number and the various letter forms they have influenced each other. The digital humanities, with the use of digital fonts and the creation of online catalogs, composers, and so on, have brought new perspectives to type design and scientific research. But despite such technological progress, practices related to typographic and graphic representation for the benefit of research have changed very little. With this presentation, I hope to have been able to demonstrate how designing typefaces for ancient writing systems to be used in scientific publication, digital or print, can aid scholars to conduct more effective and extensive research. The PIM project also contributes to reconsidering methods of access to knowledge. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Morgane. This was a very impressive work, and you managed to give an homogeneous style to very different scripts, so it was really a challenge.
Thank you.
So congratulations. I noticed that you have very slight serifs to give an epigraphical style. Yeah. I was wondering whether you were influenced by Rudolf Koch's Book of Signs.
Yeah, I think the style came from the first step of the project with Elvire Volk-Lenovich. But I think that, yeah, she was influenced by Rudolf Koch and the way that he was influenced by the engraving in stone, and yeah.
Okay, any questions? Dan Harbour.
Hi, really fascinating. You talked about stroke order a bit. Did I understand correctly that stroke order remains constant while letter form changes?
No, I think it's just part of the research. I don't, the slide that I show with the traces order, I'm not 100% sure of the order, but it's in the process of designing the stroke that can give, how do you say, some indication of maybe how the stroke was traces. I don't know if I reply correctly to your question.
So that means that there isn't, so the reason I thought it was interesting is that maybe there was this, there were like schools, so there was proper training in how to write. If stroke order is constant, then people are being taught do this stroke first and then do that one. Whereas if people are just copying the symbol without being taught how to do it, then they might use any order at all.
Oh, that can be both. Sometimes the engravers were illiterate and they were copying all just the shape that was on the other coins. Sometimes the type, the images are very, very precise and very impressive, and just behind the inscription not as beautiful. So it is supposed that sometimes they were just copying the shape, and but sometimes if you can notice with the Greek, for example, a lot of letters are very, very well done. So in this kind, here you can deduce the traces order and can help for digitize the letters.
Okay, thanks very much.
And I have a question by Hani Rashwan. So Hani Rashwan was wondering why we do not compare the ancient Egyptian one to sounds written in hieratic script with Phoenicians, Hebrew, Arabic, or Nabatean.
Well, it might be interesting. I know that there might be a link. It can be interesting to compare it with the hieratic. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's your next project.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you very much.